The Bengals lose a stunner at home to open the season against the New England Patriots Week 1 by a score of 16-10. Welcome on into Bengals Breakdown. I am your host, Stone Shields. Thank you for joining me for this little instant reaction video after the Bengals fall to the Patriots 16-10. By the way, I'm doing a little solo producing here, so if you see me look down, just bear with me. Just trying to do multiple things at once here as we get set up for today's video. But a rough day at the stadium for the Cincinnati Bengals today. A lot of things just simply did not go right for this football team out there on the field today. Again, a 16-10 deficit that they suffered, and ultimately were not able to come back from that. So we're going to give you my instant reaction here on today's show. But before we do that, make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter at StoneShields_. Going to be posting all of our content to my Twitter page. So really starting to build that up the best we can, and certainly going to have some thoughts that are out there on my Twitter tonight. So give me a follow at StoneShields_. Trying to get to 500 followers by the end of the month. So help me out. Get all your Bengals breakdown coverage from my Twitter page at StoneShields_. So a couple of notes I want to touch on here about the Bengals loss to the Patriots. First thing that jumps out at you is definitely those turnovers, right? 2 fumbles. The one by Tanner Hudson early on in the game. The Bengals kind of were off to a slow start offensively, back-to-back 3-and-outs to start on their first 2 offensive drives. Then they finally had something going. Then you think they're going to have that touchdown to Mike Gesicki. Looked live like he caught it. They take a look at the replay, and that ball happened to pop out. So they're in a 3rd and 11 situation there on their next play, where they ultimately go to Tanner Hudson over the middle. Nice little slant route. And looked like he was going to go in and score, but as he was approaching the goal line, kind of got the ball. Looked like he was preparing to reach out across the goal line. And ultimately, it is a turnover in the red zone. In the National Football League, those things can't happen if you're going to win football games. I don't care who you're playing. If you're playing, New England, who on paper was one of the worst teams in the league, they certainly still made Cincinnati pay. Cincinnati was able to still hang around towards the end of the game. If you're playing a much better team, they probably capitalize on those mistakes a little bit earlier on. And the Bengals probably aren't even really in this game for much longer. Also, Charlie Jones on the punt return. Granted, great play by the special teams guy. Put his helmet right on the nose of the football. Can't get rid of the ball. You can't turn the ball over on special teams. So that's just not a winning formula. And I thought it really was a Belichickian effort from the Patriots today. They didn't turn the ball over. They were the more professional team. They didn't make as many mistakes. And it felt like Bill Belichick was still their coach, to be honest, and just in terms of the style in which they played. And the no turnovers certainly helped them, certainly killed the Bengals in this Week 1 matchup. It was something that the Bengals really just couldn't get over at the end of the day. Plenty of other things to talk about as to why they lost this game. But first, leads us to the pinned comment of today's video. What is your one-word reaction to the Bengals' loss? During our watch party, mine was disgusting. Still feel that way, but I also feel a little bit embarrassed as well to just put on this kind of a stinker performance in your Week 1 opener against a team that, you're supposed to go out there and dominate, really. And Bengals weren't able to do that. In fact, it wasn't even close to doing that. Only scored 10 points, plenty of mistakes all over the place. But let us know in the comment section, what is your one-word reaction to the Bengals' loss today? Another thing that stood out to me, there's definitely concern with this defensive line. If you've watched the show for a while, you understand that we've been worried about this group for a long time. When you talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, they had a really difficult time stopping the run today. I thought Rhamondre Stevenson was the best player out on the field for New England. And, he played really, really well for them and just gave Cincinnati all kinds of fits. Taking a look at his numbers here, I mean, my goodness, was he just an absolute workhorse for New England in this football game. 25 carries, 120 yards, scored as well. Again, he just really felt like their best player, and there's so much reason to be concerned if you are a Cincinnati Bengal fan or if you work with the team, because that defensive line just couldn't stop anything. He got ran all over, and that was the concern this offseason, that would happen. Hopefully when you get guys like Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson, your 2 rookies, back, you have a little bit more success when it comes to stopping the run. but certainly did not have that today, and that kind of is very alarming because that's just New England. It's only going to get tougher from here in terms of offenses that you have to stop. And the Patriots ran all over the Cincinnati Bengals. Tons of missed tackles all over the place. I don't have the exact number yet, but really all areas of the defense really struggled in the missed tackle department. And quite frankly, you miss that many tackles, you're not going to have an opportunity to go out there and put your team in a position to be successful in a football game. Let's keep it on the ground, but flip it to the Cincinnati run game. I was looking for Zach Taylor to come out early and be aggressive and kind of just get up on them and get the crowd into it. That was not his approach. His approach was we're going to try to run the football, and that didn't work out. I think there were points towards the end of the game, third quarter in particular, where the Bengals were having some success on the ground, so it was kind of like, okay, maybe it paid off, but then he kind of, went away from it. I thought he was a little bit inconsistent with what he was trying to do in the run game. And neither one of the backs really did much for me. I don't think either one of them were that great. I think going forward, Chase Brown certainly has more upside. Here's what Zach Moss did today: 9 carries, 44 yards. Did have the Bengals' lone touchdown, but especially when Joe Mixon did what he did today for the Houston Texans, you definitely sit there and are like, man, it feels like the team downgraded at running back. Again, it's one game. You don't want to blow it out of proportion. But I thought it was just a combination of the fact that Zach Taylor was trying so hard to run the football, and then the fact that it really wasn't working out. Again, towards the end of the game, showed some good signs in the run game. But at that point, it was like, what are we doing? I just didn't – I don't know. I felt like that was a little bit inconsistent in terms of what they were trying to do, and didn't love the fact that Zach Taylor wanted to go out there and try to set the tone on the ground against that kind of opponent. Maybe a different kind of game. Maybe when you're on the road, that's one thing. But at home against a team that you're a heavy favorite in, I would like to see them push the football down the field a little bit more. I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time, because today's show is presented by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks is the easiest way to find and buy tickets to live events. I get Reds tickets all the time with Game Time. Before I was working with Bengals games, I would get Bengals tickets from Game Time as well. It's an incredibly straightforward process, and I get my tickets immediately with zero stress. My two favorite features on Game Time. First up, the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front, so they don't get you with any surprise fees at checkout like a bunch of other ticketing companies. Secondly, the views from your seat. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy with Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Another thing that stood out to me, was it me? Maybe I'm reading too much into this. Could be making things up. Let me know in the comments. But JaMarr Chase felt like he was kind of disinterested in this game. I thought he did a good job. His numbers weren't that bad. Thought he was big in some critical situations for Cincinnati down the stretch and was a guy that Joe Burrow could go to. But it was his body language, the look on his face. He just didn't seem like the normal JaMarr Chase. He wasn't like fired up out there like he normally is. I don't know. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way personally. Again, that could be something that I'm reading too much into. It could just not even be true. But to me, I thought he looked a little bit disinterested, and I was really not expecting that from JaMarr. And quite frankly, it's very disappointing. I understand he's got some personal stuff going on with his contract, but that was not a preseason game. That was week one. That was the real deal. And the Bengals went out there and laid an egg, and he certainly played a part in that. We'll talk at length as we move on with the week if that was something that really is noteworthy, but just kind of from an instant reaction standpoint, he looked a little disinterested out there on the football field today, in my opinion. Lastly, this is kind of, if you were with us for the watch party and I got a little bit fired up about this, I think a lot of coaches would have done what Zach Taylor did, 100%. You have 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning to work with. You're 4th and 5, backed up all the way inside your own 10-yard line, or relatively close to that, wherever they were. You decide to punt the football. I didn't like the call. Right when he made the calls, I don't think you can do that. When you have a star quarterback like Joe Burrow, I want to live or die with the ball in his hands to end the game. I understand there would have been more time. I understand if you go for it there and don't get it, the game's pretty much over. But I would rather you go for it there and the game be over than just postpone it for another 10 minutes and then live and die with your defense. Because especially the way Rhamondre Stevenson was running the football against Cincinnati today, and the defense was out there for a long time. I thought the defense did a good job of stringing together some stops when they had to, and I think you were just asking too much of your defense for them to go back out there in that spot. I would have went with it with Joe Burrow staying on the field, 4th and 5. Again, 4th and 10, different story. Maybe you punt it. Certainly more than 4th and 10. You think about punting it, but 4th and 5 with Joe Burrow out there, I think you got to roll the dice with him. I would have loved to see the offense stay out on the field, and then you kind of live or die with that. But ultimately, that's not what Zach Taylor decided to do, and ultimately Joe Burrow doesn't get the ball back in his hands, and you're left wondering what could have happened if Joe Burrow had the football. Another opportunity for you guys to get interactive with our show here. What would you have done on the last drive? Type P if you would have punted, or G if you would have gone for it. Look, I love Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor's going to get absolutely ripped all week long, and I'm going to be here protecting him and sticking up for Zach Taylor. But on this one, I think he messed up. I think he messed up pretty bad there. Definitely would have went for it. But sound off, let me know what you think in the comments of today's video. Before we get out of here, make sure you guys are subscribed to our channel here at Bengals Breakdown. It was a rough one, right? It was a rough first game. I understand that. I was here for it. We were here for it together. We went through it together. But it's a long season. The Bengals always start out slow for whatever reason. And I remain optimistic that the team is going to get this turned around. So don't miss out on any of our coverage. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/BengalsTV, for all the latest Bengals news, rumors, and watch parties. Despite the fact that the Bengals fell to New England, we did have a great time for the 4+ hours we were live on our channel. So you don't want to miss out on any of that coverage. Hit that sub button for us right now. That's youtube.com/BengalsTV.